You have tuned into the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Julio. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the BearDown Corner. I'm Sergeant Julio. Let's get you into the NFL. Little shorter news week this week, but a few stories. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. I only bring this up because literally he posted in an X post about Go Commanders Go, basically signaling that it's the end of the tenure with him and the 49ers. He's been linked to Jaden Daniels as they played together in college. Honestly, this guy needs a goddamn brain transplant. He has been nothing but a pain in the ass for the Niners the last 2 years, and selfish too. When he could be out there helping a team that he signed a long-term contract with and basically told to go shove it. So honestly, as far as I'm concerned, this guy can sit on the bench and rot for the next few seasons. Titans defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons is now the highest paid defensive tackle in the league. The Tennessee Titans have signed him to a 3-year extension, $105.8 million extension. It'll average to about $35 million a season, $3 million more than Chris Jones in Kansas City. He still had 2 years left on his deal, which basically we should bring him to about retirement, maybe, kind of, sort of. He's going to be 29 this season, so he is 29 age season, so we'll see how that works out for the Titans. And in what I found as the interesting part of the stories was the NFL has agreed to form a referee practice squad. So the information I learned after reading up about all this, the new 7-year CBA deal that they ratified recently, the NFL is allowed to have a practice squad of up to 12 backup referees, basically. So if there is a guy that is underperforming, making really bad calls, etc., they can replace him with said referee. Now, 2 of those 12 referees are the head substitutes to fill in on other squads, in case of injuries or whatever the case for game day officials. Now, moving forward, this should, in my opinion, and from what I read, give a good, I think it's going to be good competition for the current referees of the NFL. It gives them accountability to be more precise and consistent on good play calling when the penalties are actually deserved and when they're basically just throwing the goddamn game. If it works how we hope it to, which, let's just be true, NFL probably rigs in some way some of their games with the refereeing. That's neither me to say, I have no proof on it, but we all have seen the content before. I think long-term, this is going to be good for the NFL. It brings good competition and holds them accountable if this is done correctly. So look forward to that in the coming season. All right, on to the best of the NFL divisions. We have part 6 of 8 of State of the Division, and today we start with the Jesus, Murphy, my bad. I apparently fell off in my notes because I'm that awesome. Yeah. AFC East today, where we start off with the Buffalo Bills. They traded for wide receiver DJ Moore from the Chicago Bears this offseason, giving basically Josh Allen a much-needed premium target. Look, I like Khalil Shakir. He's going to be there for the long term. He signed a contract extension this offseason, but Josh Allen needed more weapons, more proper weapons. So they go out, they get wide receiver DJ Moore to help him. They bring in edge rusher on the defensive side, Bradley Chubb, to help with that sack issue that they were having last year. Connor McCaffrey is going to be the center going forward for the Bills as he re-signs a 4-year, $52 million contract. McGavin. Sorry, I missed the G in that pronunciation. So, some good moves by the Bills. Honestly, as far as who they lost this offseason, Curtis Samuel was released. Honestly, the guy they drafted in the 4th round, Skylar Bell, he'll be nice to replace him. Taylor Rapp, safety, he's gone. They overhauled their safety position this offseason, bringing in some other free agents. And really, backup quarterback Mitch Trubisky? I like Trubisky as a former Bears guy. He went to the Titans. So what? This team is still built, even though they fired head coach Sean McDermott, brought in Brady as the head coach. Joe Brady, sorry, not Tom Brady. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator last season for the Bills. They just needed a spark. Maybe this is it. 9 years with McDermott. They never made it past the AFC title game. And I don't know, I guess ownership felt it was stagnant. So they changed head coach, bring in a few more new pieces, get rid of the old stuff. They had a decent draft, considering they didn't have a first-round pick. They picked up edge rusher TJ Parker and DB Davison Igbinosun, cornerback, both in the 2nd round. We already mentioned wide receiver Skylar Bell. They also picked up an offensive tackle in Jude Bowerny. So, you know what? They restocked a little bit in hopes of developing these players, and they'll stay competitive. I don't know if necessarily they'll be the best team in the AFC East, but really all signs should point towards them or the Patriots, most likely, as the next 2 teams we talk about, they're on the upswing. Do I think they have enough to make a proper push for a playoff spot this year? Hell no. New York Jets traded for former 2nd-round pick Trevonte Sweat from the Tennessee Titans, who is playing as a starter the last few years since being drafted. They use him to replace the loss of Quentin Williamson from last season when they traded him to the Cowboys, my bad. Traded for quarterback Geno Smith, who's back in New York, for some stability at the quarterback position after a failed season in Las Vegas. They also traded for safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and signed him to a 3-year, $40 million extension. They're trying to mold this team in Aaron Glenn's vision, is what this basically is telling me. He tried the Justin Fields experiment, backfired on him, right? Go find a new veteran quarterback. That's what they did. Offensively, they re-signed Breece Hall this offseason. They signed a few of their key pieces, actually, to some extensions. Demario Davis comes back on a 2-year, $22 million. So the pieces are there for them to at least be competitive. They even drafted edge rusher David Bailey, 2nd overall this last spring. Kenyon Saudi, tight end, number 16 overall in the 1st round. And Omar Cooper Jr., they are on tackle. They are loading up for the future. Not necessarily to compete now, but the future. So the Jets, they're hopefully taking an upswing. Probably be a top 10 pick next year. Dolphins drafted... Let's just dig right into the Dolphins. First off, they have to deal with the Tua Tagovailoa contract bullshit. So that's why their roster is basically going to look like that of a 3rd grader's depth chart that he wrote out or some shit, right? Like, it's just... I like the process they're doing because they brought in Halfley from Green Bay. They got their GM from Green Bay. They went and signed quarterback Malik Willis to a 3-year deal from Green Bay. They're going all in as far as, the guys that they know that they brought in and to hopefully show something for, right? So they bring in some cheap wide receivers and Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, respectively, of the LA Rams. Talented young guys, just never really got an opportunity. Well, with Tyreek Hill being released and Jalen Waddle being traded, it's an open competition in Miami. They signed Greg Dulcich, who's looking like he'll be the starting tight end. Like I say, a bunch of names that aren't going to jump to you out on paper. You've probably heard of them in backup roles throughout the league in the last few years, but none of it is jumping off the paper like they're going to win the AFC East. They drafted Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, in the first round. Chris Johnson, quarterback, in the end of this first round. And Jacob Rodriguez in the second round. All decent picks, but nothing jumping out at me screaming, we're going to compete this year. They'll probably be a top 10 pick next year. All right, let's finish it off with the New England Patriots, your AFC East and AFC Conference defending champions. For a team that got swatted in the Super Bowl by the Seahawks, they go out and upgrade the wide receiver position for more legitimacy as they bring in Romeo Doubs on a 4-year, $80 million contract. And they traded for A.J. Brown for their first-round pick. Honestly, this team didn't really need a lot of pieces. So they go and shore up the wide receiver room. They signed Dramonte Jones on the defensive line to help out on the front four there. They signed Kevin Baird, who just came off an all-pro season in Chicago at safety. So they basically just reload a few nice pieces on defense. They had the cap space. May's still on his rookie quarterback contract. And they go out and draft a few, extra pieces in youth talent, right? An offensive tackle and an edge rusher, both interior line. Surprising. First and second round in the draft. The Patriots on paper look like they've upgraded. With all the scandals going on with head coach Mike Vrabel and all the media attention that A.J. Brown's going to bring, and the fact the Patriots were just in the Super Bowl last year, and it's like reliving the glory days of Tom Brady. Can they compete? Yes and no. And I say this because last year, they had one of the easiest schedules of the NFL. They still had to win all those games. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from them. They grinded, they spat, they went to war. But when it came time in the playoffs, let's be honest, they should not have won against Denver. If Stidham would have been even a fraction of a half-decent starting quarterback in this league and not dumbfounded by a 5-play playbook, Broncos and Seattle would have been the Super Bowl. Let's be honest. Okay? The Patriots had a good year. They won 2 playoff games. They held their own. I'm not saying that they're a bad team. I just don't think they're a juggernaut like everyone seems for them to be. Denver, I put as a juggernaut. That defense is disgusting, and offensively, they're just getting better. The Patriots, Drake May had himself a really nice year, and then he looked like a 13-year-old quarterback playing in the Super Bowl when he looked like he was lost in traffic. Bills are probably going to take the division. Probably not really a shocker there. Patriots will be somewhere behind following for a wild card. I just don't see them being back on top like they were last year. I just don't. But, hey, that's my hot take. I'm Sergeant Holio. This has been the BearDown Corner. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. You can catch us live every Tuesday, 6 o'clock General Mountain and 8 o'clock Eastern, everywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Be safe, take care, and we will catch you here next week on the BearDown Corner.